Oh, hello there. Yes, well, I've got a very noisy bird outside, which is complaining loudly because my pussycat is out there. Anyway, yesterday we had the big news of the Reform Party launch, and further proof, if any is needed, that not only can't people on the right wing do history, but they sure as hell can't do maths. Yes, anyway, lots of sort of magical thinking in the manifesto. So basically, magically, when the power of the market is unleashed, then anything can happen, except usually what happens is that things don't work, which is what we've had for 14 years. But as you well know, according to these people, if something hasn't worked for 14 years, you just need to do it some more, and then maybe it will. Yes, anyway, my favourite thing from yesterday was very shortly after the launch, the IFS, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, said that basically it doesn't add up. And my favourite line from them, there was this one, okay? Whilst Reform's manifesto gives a clear sense of priority, a government could only implement parts of this package or would need to find other ways to help pay for it, which would mean losers not specified. Yes, and if you're wondering who those losers not specified might be, I suggest that you, if you stand up and go and have a look in a mirror, because you might get the answer there. Yes, of course, we'll all lose, because you can't make 5% cuts in government spending without things going wrong. We have seen this over the years. Yes. Anyway, I had to smile yesterday as well, just on a sort of Nigel Farage line. The increasingly interesting Sophie Corcoran, who's definitely getting older and wiser, is the only way I can describe it. She was a bit of a sort of bogey figure. Bogey woman figure to lots of people, myself included. But I did like this from yesterday. She put this up. I'm a fan of Nigel Farage. But he's not the right person to be an MP for Clacton. It is home to the most deprived town in England. They need a backbench MP who won't abandon them for the Trump tour. And in the comments, various people sort of turned their nose up at this because they were saying, oh, it'll be really good for Clacton. But she rightly points out he won't be there. He's a globalist, if you want to be brutal about it, and he will completely bugger off at the first opportunity because he's not interested in Clacton and he's not interested in people. Yesterday as well, just to sort of move into right-wing bigotry, there was the news that Michael Cashman has had the Labour whip, I guess, removed from the House of Lords because he dared to have a go at Rosie Duffield, who is a friend of J.K. Rowling, and you're not allowed to have a go at friends of J.K. Rowling's. Them's the rules, after all. The thing is about Rosie, if you think about her, all right, okay, on any rational level, okay, she isn't a constituency MP. She's a campaigner for a very, very, very small vocal minority of bigots. Sorry about that, but she just is. You can be a small campaigner for a vocal minority of bigots if you want to be, but it's worthwhile pointing out that that's what you are. If you go to her Twitter account, okay, this is the top of the page, right? And that's her. She's the blondish one, second from the left, who is standing amongst some other women. And you may recognise the other women because they are also members of a small but vocal minority of bigots, hence happen to be friends of J.K. Rowling. And she's got a sort of vaguely feminist thing that's up there. But if you just have a quick look at the feminist thing that's up there, you arrive with, well, drum roll, you arrive with this, which is an artist friend of J.K. Rowling. So what Rosie is saying to us there very much is where her priority, singular, is. And I would hope that the good people, the good burghers of Canterbury will vote her away because she might not like being criticised by people she feels threatened by, but I'm sorry, bigots, I don't think you should live lives whereby people don't react to what you do. you're a bigot, and as such you need to be called out as a bigot. If it's uncomfortable, maybe you should stop being a bigot. Because the problem, of course, with bigots historically, and not necessarily talking about Nigel Farage or Rosie, but I am going to talk now about Glinner, they tend to drift completely into other areas. I mean, one of the intriguing things about, for example, Corbyn was this notion that he was only an anti-Semite, and that's really not the way it works. You're a racist, and you tend to have lesser or greater degrees of racism against particular types of people. But bedrock, you're a racist. So we had this from Glinner yesterday. He reposted this, which is basically going on about grooming gangs. Okay, now, if Glinner is very concerned, which undoubtedly he is, about this sexual exploitation of young women, then why doesn't he shout and scream about the ongoing issues there are amongst quite a high percentage of Catholic priests throughout the UK, or indeed the Republic of Ireland? And I'll leave you to decide exactly why he doesn't do that, because that really would shine a spotlight on him in a problematic way, and it's far, far easier for him to just be a nasty bigot against people with no vocal power to stand up to him, like all nasty bigots. And that's why people like me need to carry on shouting about it. Anyway, on a more light-hearted level, this caught my eye. This caught my eye yesterday from good old Paul Golding, good Christian lad that he is. Yeah, anyway, he took some time out from lying prostrate on the floor, praying to the greater glory of God, to tweet this. Unless European Christian women start having children, brackets, men cannot get pregnant, see, he's done the science, and then our entire existence is utterly doomed. Our entire existence, yes, indeed. And he posted reposted this from Europe Invasion, yeah, which I thought was a kind of thing about D-Day, but it turns out actually it's a racist website. Astounding. Anyway, yes, the fertility rate of Muslim women in Europe is 5 times higher than that of native women, according to Natural Growth. I think they mean just over time things. Christians will become a minority in Europe by 2045. And I thought, well, okay, 2045 is basically in 20 years' time. So that would have to involve quite a dramatic drop in a European Christian, even counting actual Christians, and quite a rather more dramatic rise, this is where the maths comes in terms of the Muslim population. So I thought, let's have a little maths-based exercise in the UK. So I've got my trusty big boys calculator here. Yeah, so let's assume a certain number of things, okay? And I'm going to be very, 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 very generous here in terms of demographics for Paul, okay? So, current population of the UK is about 68 million, roughly speaking, right? Okay? Given lowering birth rates, which is what we've got, the sort of current birth rates across the UK is about 1.4, 1.5. Below what you need about 2.1 for each woman to have slightly more than have 2 children in order to maintain the current level. So let's assume in 20 years, reasonable assumption, because after all, reform will storm in and stop all that migration business, that in 2045 there's a population of 70 million, okay, across the UK. Reasonable assumption to make. Now, UK has a reasonably high Muslim population compared to lots of other European countries. Varies a bit, but we are generally speaking higher. And the current Muslim population in the UK is 4 million. It's actually, well, according to the census 2021, it was 3.9. So I'm going to call it 4 million. Because we're nice rounding figures, okay, round it up a little bit, let's say it's 4 million. Now, using my knowledge of demographics, I'm going to halve that because I'm guessing that, biologically speaking, 2 million of those people will be women. Now, you have to take off some women who are quite a bit younger, some women who are postmenopausal, some women can't have children, some women don't want to have children. Ooh, ugh. Yeah, all that stuff, right? But let's just assume that all of these Muslims, because, for the greater glory of God, are going to have 5 children, shall we? in the next 20 years, yeah? Let's not push the boat out too hard, even though we know that it's a political act for women in hijab to scare you. So let's times our 2 million by 5, and we end up with 10 million, right? I just managed to crash my calculator. We end up with 10 million, right? Okay. Now, if we add that 10 million to the current also Muslims that are here, let's assume that none of them die. Okay, I'm going to add another 4 million to that. Right, hang on. No, yeah, we end up with 14 million people in 2025 that are Muslim in the UK out of 70. Which is a lot less than half, isn't it? So, unless Paul knows something about what's going to happen in this time, in terms of presumably all Christian women, whoever they are, or I think he means white people, let's call it that, just for the sake of his own racism, white women suddenly stop having children completely, and an awful lot of people die in race riots, presumably inspired by so many happy crowds at the Reform's tax cuts, then I don't think they are, Paul. I think that's just simply based on the numbers. That's what we might call bollocks, right? And the other bollocks, of course, there is to it, just to bring in just a note of reality here, is that when people come to this country, their fertility rate drops like a stone. Muslim women in this country basically have the same number of kids as the indigenous population within one generation. Sorry, Paul, but that's the figures. Anyway, I'm sure there'll be loads of people that want to argue the toss in the in the comments section with me. So go right ahead. I don't care. Yes, I am right, and yes, Paul is wrong, because he can't add up like these people can't. But bigotry isn't actually based on, reality, is it? Like numbers. Yes, numbers in, numbers out, as Nigel might say. But no, it isn't based on that. It's based on the quality of the person, and of course. And we need more quality people like Paul that can do history and maths, and more quality people like the prospective MP for Canterbury and the prospective MP for Clacton. People that really have our best interests at heart. I don't think they do. Anyway, do have a lovely day. That bird has stopped. I presume my cat has slunk off. He does occasionally catch one or two of them and brings them home, which is nice. Anyway, do have a lovely day if you can do, and if you disagree with me, it's undoubtedly because you're not a racist, because nobody is. Let's face it, they're just concerned citizens. Yeah. Anyway, the Reform will sort all that lot out. You don't need to worry.